All right, welcome once again to Editing the Academy. My name's Daryl.
I'm Laura.
And Laura, what year are we talking about and what are the films?
We are talking about the films that were not in Wow, can we start that again?
Laura.
No, I want to go from the beginning. And...
You made me snort.
Do you want me to start over again?
No. Hello everyone. Welcome once again to Editing the Academy. I'm Daryl.
I'm Laura.
Laura, what's the year and what are the films that we're talking about?
We are looking at the films that were nominated for Best Picture in 1993 and came out in 1992.
All right. Keeping with the new segment, the top 5 movies that year by income, by monetary whatever. Home Alone 2 was number 1. Batman Returns, Lethal Weapon 3, A Few Good Men, and Sister Act. Just for comparison, none of these made over $200 million.
Wow, okay, shocking.
Other notables that year, The Last of the Mohegans, A River Runs Through It, such a good movie.
I love that movie.
Chaplin, Reservoir Dogs, so the start.
Also good,
Yep.
yeah. Independent films coming up.
Singles, Glengarry Glen Ross, The Player, Fire Walk With Me, My Cousin Vinny, The Bodyguard, Malcolm X, Like Water for Chocolate, School Ties, Single White Female, Dracula, and one of my favorites that we just did, Army of Darkness.
I gotta say, I think I saw most of those in the movie theater. Like that is a good list, and I remember the majority of those.
That's a question I've been meaning to ask you every
Yeah.
time after those notables. Have you seen all of those?
I don't know that I've seen all of them, but I would say I've seen the vast majority. I think I've seen them all at this point, but I think I saw a lot of them in the movie theater in the moment. So this was 92, I had just graduated from college, so that's probably about the right timing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I always go alphabetical, so I have The Crying Game first.
Let's do it.
All right, The Crying Game, written and directed by Neil Jordan, produced by Stephen Woolley and Nick Powell, starring Stephen Rea, Miranda Richardson, Jay Davidson, Adrian Dunbar, Ralph Brown, and Forrest Whitaker. Was nominated for 6 Academy Awards: Best Picture, Best Film Editing, Best Actor for Rea, Best Supporting Actor Davidson, Best Director, and 1 for Best Original Screenplay. Go to the facts.
Okay, the facts. Got 2 facts for you. One is which is Jay Davidson. Because I was thinking about the whole Best Actor versus Best Actress thing. He was a gay man, but not transgender.
Right.
So I did not realize that, and showing how great he was. And this movie did really well worldwide. It did great in the U.S. It did not do well in the UK because, not surprising, you do not want to show a sympathetic IRA soldier, certainly not in the early 90s.
Yeah, and having a relation with another man would have also been slightly problematic.
No, that wasn't, it was 100% it was because of the troubles were happening.
Yeah,
so it was absolutely the IRA issue. I'm sure that was an issue worldwide, but as far as, that was not the #1 issue in the UK.
So I did, when I was doing research, I have a minor fact for you. The person who played Gil was discovered, first time ever acting.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only other thing that they did not do a very long film career, but was in Stargate.
Yep, and I actually remember him in that.
Yep, and so I hadn't, and it was just interesting, because very pretty man.
Very, very much so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to acknowledge the reveal right out of the gate because it's such a big part of the film, I think. And I had forgotten that the reveal happens like 2/3 of the way in. I thought it was like almost the very end of the film.
Oh, interesting, okay.
So I knew it was coming, but I didn't remember when it was coming. Again, I thought it was at the end. So when it came 2/3 of the way in, it makes perfect sense when it does happen. Sure. And it fits entirely with the structure of the film. But I was a little surprised because my expectation was that the reveal was at the end kind of thing, and I don't remember why. What I found interesting, we try very hard to put ourselves in the time that the movie was out and try to get back into that mentality.
Right.
This one, more than any other film, I think it's almost impossible for us to do that with because things have changed so much since then. When I watched this for the first time, when they would go into the club, and I didn't really have a concept or understanding of that as a culture, I guess.
Okay.
Now in retrospect, obviously, it's telegraphed and it's so apparently obvious, but at the time when I was first watching it, no concept, no clue. So the reveal did come as much more of a shock than than it would, even if I were to watch this for the first time now, I don't think I would have been as shocked, or the reveal would have been as dramatic
Yep.
in today's time, 2025 versus 1993 or 2, whatever we're talking about. So that was a big difference. I could not at all put myself back into that mentality. I don't know if you felt the
Yeah.
same.
So I have never seen the movie before. This is
Really?
my first time watching
Okay,
the
so
movie.
this is great.
But I knew the reveal. So I knew what the movie was about,
Okay.
and I knew about Gil. I knew the secret. So that's kind of why I never saw the movie, because I think I had been spoiled for it, and everyone said, well, if you know the secret, then it's not as good, because that's one of the best parts of the movie. That said, even knowing it and seeing it, I just felt so terribly sad in this movie. There was just a deep sadness in this movie.
There is.
And I don't know how much of it is because of where we are today versus where we were then, and I don't know. I don't know what it was about it, but the performances I thought were great. I was more not invested, but I understood better the IRA in the UK and what was going on
Yep.
there, and it just made me overall I thought the scene when basically Stephen Ray is trying to turn Gil back into a boy, I thought that was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like, it just made me so super, super sad. And I kept thinking to myself, would this movie be made today? And then I think about Emilia Perez.
Right.
And so I don't know. I don't know whether it would be made a little bit, with a little bit more sensitivity today. I think it was pretty sensitive at the time, though.
I think it was incredibly sensitive.
I think it was, but I don't know. And I never really understood what the lead character's feelings for Gil were. Was it true love? Was it love but he couldn't overcome the gender? I didn't know what was going on there. Or was it attraction and that made him freak out a little bit? Or I didn't know. I wanted more. I wanted to know what was he feeling, and he never telegraphed that.
No, his character is a very stoic character
Yeah.
anyway. I mean, he was a chatty character, but he's very, he did not convey emotions. I think, to answer your question, would this movie be made today? Yes, but it would be a slightly different movie. Like, the reveal would not be as dramatic.
And it would be made with a transgender actor, I
Yes.
assume, yeah.
So I think it would be made, and in doing it today, I think they would have to change the nature of the story to build up other areas and pull down other
Yeah.
areas, because at the time when this came out, that reveal was kind of not the point of the film,
Yeah,
but it was a draw of the film.
yeah.
So, I don't know.
Interesting, and maybe I just was not sensitive to this because of my background and what I was bringing to this movie. But it talked about, I've read some things about the movie of, it talks about gender themes, cultural themes, and racial themes.
Yep.
And although obviously there were lots of people of different races, I didn't see the racial themes being hit as hard as the cultural themes and the gender themes. Did you?
They were initially. I mean, they used the N-word against it.
Good point. Good point.
So they were
Yeah.
initially, and then they were touched on a little bit towards the end because he was a black man, and she was a black man as well. So yes, initially it's hit pretty hard, but then it kind of backs away a little bit after.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking about it more as the Stephen Ray character and the Jay Davidson character. Like, I didn't see racial issues come into play with their two characters.
No.
And I guess that's where I was expecting it.
Okay.
So, but that said, like, Forrest Whitaker is always terrific, and he had such a
He really
fairly
is.
small part in this, and it was so critical, and he did a great job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is essentially 3 movies
Yes.
to me. So you have the intro with the capture, and then the introduction of the girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the setup where he asks him to go back, so
Yeah.
he does, and that's the second part.
The
and then,
romance kind of thing.
yeah, and then the third is the dealing with what the reveal was, as well as his past life coming back to haunt him, and the culmination of all of those things. So it's essentially 3 movies.
Yeah.
I think each individual section was handled well and built on the one from
Mhm.
prior. So the film had an overall arc that made total sense to me. It worked, it flowed. I think it could have been expanded in areas, tightened up in other areas, and just been a little bit better. But again, it's very hard for me to put myself back into that particular time frame. The only thing I really wanted to talk about with this film is I find it interesting that some of the films that we have watched that have either gay men or transgender folks in them have such a very clear defined sense of femininity in them.
What do you mean?
So, when you think about Kiss of the Spider Woman, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
So he had a very, like,
Very feminine aspect,
his
yes.
version of a female was very clearly defined. It was about this. In this movie as well, Gil's is very defined. She wants the romance. She wants the man to be a more, we'll just call it 1950s kind of man and treat her in a particular fashion. And then you look at Amelia Perez as well, it's a very projected version of femininity. And I don't know necessarily what to make of that, but it is interesting to me that when you have someone portraying something, whether it's internal, external, whatever, that definition of femininity is far more defined than it is in just like a normal film.
So I agree with you on two of those. I didn't agree on Gil. I don't think that Gil necessarily wanted to be treated that way, because she said something to the effect of, somebody shows me any affection and I'll give them everything they want.
Yeah.
So I saw that differently. I saw that more as you could treat her any way. You could treat her, in any way possible, and all she wants is just some love and affection, and that's what she craves. So I didn't see that as necessarily a true kind of feminine role or kind of presenting femininity in that way. I saw it as a person craving love. And so not necessarily in a feminine way.
Okay, I'm gonna disagree. I think it's both. The constant referral to herself as, I'm just a girl who does this, or that I'm a girl who wants this. Like the constant reinforcement of that. A girl always needs a little glamour in her life. Like these things that she was doing, to me, at least projected a very specific version of what femininity was for her. Not in general, but for her.
Well, but femininity, yes, in the way you present yourself. And again, I think that's always kind of restating of, I am a girl, and I like this, and I like this, but not in the relationship aspect. I think you were saying it's more like the 50s housewife kind of relationship. I didn't see her as being overly feminine in a relationship, feminine in the way she presented herself.
That's more what I'm saying, I guess.
Okay.
Not feminine in the relationship, but the feminine in the projection. And I can
which, yes, absolutely, transgender, of course. Yeah.
And I can see that because it's not that necessarily someone would need to constantly remind themselves, but they need to remind other people.
The outside world.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was it.
Yeah.
I just find that interesting that a lot of these where it's not a natural. I'm going to use the wrong terminology. I apologize, but someone who is projecting something that they are not
biologically.
Yes. That it becomes very clearly defined and projected, where as opposed to other films where that is not necessarily, necessity is the wrong word, but it's not something that's dealt with as much, I guess.
I think you're right, but also kind of, and we both had a hard time with this in putting ourselves in the time frame of the moment. There were movies that had a gay character, it was a gay movie.
Yeah.
A movie that had a transgender character, it was a transgender movie.
Right.
So like, right up to probably Brokeback Mountain. I mean, the gay cowboy movie. I mean, like that was the way it was. Now we can have more movies with many, many characters that have many, many, different characteristics, and lots of them are gay, straight, gender fluid, all of the things that we all are as people. And it doesn't have to be a movie about that. It feels like in that time frame, they all had to be issue movies.
Yes, yeah,
or they didn't have to be, they were all issue movies.
And admittedly, sometimes that was the draw or the tagline, because it is this. There were many white straight males who felt proud of themselves in the 90s for going to see a gay movie.
Exactly.
So whatever. Anyway, that was the only thing I really wanted to talk about, is I just find that interesting that some of these do have that very clear defined projection of what female is for this particular person in this particular movie.
I think the only piece with this movie, and I'll say it up straight, is this movie just made me feel dumb, because I did not know what I was supposed to take away from it, and I didn't know what I was supposed to learn or understand or any of those things about it. Like often movies, I don't want to be hit in the head with what is the message of this movie, but I enjoyed it. It was great performances. The kind of storyline was fairly tight of this happened, then this happened, then this happened. It made me super sad. Like I said, I thought it was a very tragic movie all the way around. Nobody ends up happy in this movie, but what did they want me to take away from it? I didn't get it.
I think part of it, my takeaway was that Steven's character was kind of a stand-in for the audience in that situation because there was an obvious attraction.
Yep.
There was an obvious affection. You don't know if it's necessarily love or not, but there's definitely an affection. The struggle is, this is not who I am. I'm not a gay man, but I'm having feelings for this person who is of the same gender as I am, has the same part. And I think the audience was supposed to go forward and watch that ride and see if they would do the same, if they would, what their experience would be based on how he is interacting. I
There's
think
the immediate violent outburst and then the thoughtfulness after
Yeah.
that followed. Yeah,
And-
you're probably right.
And he does do certain things to show that there is affection, again, not clearly defined as
Yeah.
love, but definite affection. So I think that was kind of the point, but I agree, it is murky, it's not very clearly stated
Yeah.
for you, but I think that's in the mix somewhere.
I think you're right. I'm glad to have finally seen it, and I think that both of the main performances that were nominated absolutely deserved it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving
Next.
on to A Few Good Men.
Alrighty.
A Few Good Men, based on Aaron Sorkin's 1989 play, and I love Aaron Sorkin's writing. It was written by Sorkin, directed by Rob Reiner, produced by Reiner, David Brown, and Andrew Scheinman. Stars Tom Cruise, Jack Nicholson, Demi Moore, Kevin Bacon, Kevin Pollak, J.T. Walsh, Cuba Gooding Jr., and Kiefer Sutherland. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor, Best Film Editing, Best Sound Mixing. It did not win anything. Go with the facts.
All right, the facts are that this play that Aaron Sorkin, who I also love, wrote, was based on a conversation with his sister, who was a JAG officer sent to Guantanamo Bay to defend a group of Marines who had nearly killed another based on an order from a commanding officer who said, this is a hazing ritual I want you to perform. And actually, all of the parties that made this movie got sued by the folks that were that were defended by his sister. So this is not, apparently by law, we cannot say this was based on a true story, but it was accounted to him as a true story.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I was doing a little research for this.
Okay. I remember when this movie came out, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the buzz about it and the infinite quotes that came about because of this movie.
You can't handle the truth.
Exactly. I remember enjoying the movie, and I think this is my third time watching it.
Okay.
I remember mostly enjoying their performances and how strong everybody was in their performances, how they all, even Noah Wyle was great in his small little role.
Yeah.
Like, everybody was up to par, if not well past it, for the roles that they actually had. Kiefer Sutherland, never been a huge Kiefer fan, nailed his role.
Oh, I loved him in this. He's
Yeah.
a great bad guy.
The issue for me, and I'm discovering this as we've watched more and more Tom Cruise movies, is that ultimately anything he's in becomes a Tom Cruise movie.
Oh yeah.
And I kind of have issues with that. With
Okay.
all of this rich material, all of these great actors, this still was a Tom Cruise movie. It has a Tom Cruise movie feel to it, and I don't like that.
I think that's fair. And I think it was a Tom Cruise movie. And so I've seen this several times. I love Aaron Sorkin, and I find this a thoroughly enjoyable movie. I love the script. I love the performances. I think it is actually one of the best courtroom dramas that's out there as far as, fairly realistic. However, there's enough, liberties taken to make it the pacing really fast and interesting things happen that, couldn't ever really happen in a courtroom, but it's well done, and I like that. The Tom Cruise of it all that I did not like was the beginning half an hour of Tom Cruise, which was
The playful,
smarmy.
yeah.
Exactly, smarmy, megawatt smile, Tom Cruising of it all. Once he started acting, I thought it was great. And once he turned down the megawatt smile, I thought it was terrific. But I did not care for him or his character, because his character was Tom Cruise at the beginning.
That part to me was problematic because I didn't buy the change, like the fact that he had his father on his shoulder, that he's always just litigated his way out, never really been in a courtroom, all of that build up, and then he just suddenly decides this is the moment that that's all that
turn it on.
and all of that's going to change. I didn't buy the switch. I went along for the ride, and
Sure.
once the switch happens, the courtroom drama aspect of it really ramps up the movie aspect.
Yep.
So I like that.
Just before you get started on
Yep.
something else, just exactly on that point, that is why I did not like Rain Man.
Yeah.
Was for the exact same thing, as I did not think that terrible character could change over the course of 4 days.
Yeah.
And so exactly the same.
I think this was in the hands of the right person. I think
Oh, yeah.
Rob was the correct person to be directing this. Rob does a lot of things very well. He can handle sentiment incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
He does not go heavy-handed like say Opie does when he directs movies.
Opie and Babs, we are apparently just like on first name basis
I
with
know
these
Bob.
folks. Yes.
They are actually secretly watching these. They don't subscribe, but they
That would
watch.
be fantastic.
Okay. But he's really good at quickly establishing characters and then maintaining character and even change in character.
Yeah.
He knows how to handle characters very well. And this is 100% a character-driven movie. If you don't have these characters, this is not about the story of this at
No.
all. It is a character piece, and that part is awesome. It's handled so well.
I agree. I think there's a little bit of a storyline piece only because each of the 3 main lawyers are kind of stand-ins for the audience.
Yeah.
So you've got, like, for instance, Kevin, which Kevin was it that played?
Pollak.
Pollak, thank you. I loved him. I thought he was great. So Kevin Pollak plays the guy who doesn't like these guys.
Yep.
These guys went out and...
They're bullies.
They're bullies. They took on weaker people and, hello, the Nazis said that they were just following orders. And so I love that. He is standing in for a big part of the audience who is saying the same thing.
Yep.
And then you've got Demi Moore on the complete other side of these poor guys. They followed orders. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what you do in the service. And they are absolutely fully blameless. And you've got a big part of the audience that feels the same way. And then you've got Tom Cruise kind of, I just want the truth. I don't care. I'm coming into this blind. So I really liked that they had the 3 of them to run the gamut of how the audience is going to react, and each of them had a stand-in character.
And often at odds with each other, but they work it out, and that's the same thing. The audience may decide to choose sides. I was thinking this way, but now I'm feeling this way. So that, yes, I agree with you. They handle that part beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
The mystery element of it was just enough to keep your interest going.
Yeah.
I thought. I mean, it's not a true murder mystery because we know who did it, but there is a mystery there that I did enjoy. My biggest thing for this, and I'll give you my answer after, but I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
Do they earn the moment of his confession? Because it's a build-up. They know that everything's riding on this. You know it's coming, and Tom's like, I got it, I'm going to handle it, and I'll know the moment to do it. Do you think there was enough build-up for him to suddenly then change and say and agree to what he did?
By asking the question, I think I know what your answer is, but I'm going to say yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I think Jack Nicholson earned it. Because I think at the very beginning of the scene, or even the night before, Tom Cruise says something about he wants to say this.
Yes.
He wants to tell us this. He is pissed that he is sitting there in this seat. And so I've just got to be enough of a jackass that he is going to want to tell me off. So I think that he played that and played up enough of a jackass that it was earned. And I think Jack Nicholson earned it.
Yeah.
How about you? Same question back.
I agree. I think
Okay.
that Jack Nicholson earned it. I don't think Tom earned it.
Okay.
I don't think the questions and the attacking that he was doing, I think that would have gone on a little bit longer before Jack Nicholson would have come out with such anger. You're right, the night before, and we all believe that Jack does want to state this, even though he knows it's wrong. He wants to stand up and say all of this, just like Tom said. I just think to get him to that place would have been a little bit more nuanced questioning, not be so blunt. But I 100% agree that it was Jack who earned that moment, not Tom in his questioning.
I agree with that. Yep, I think that's definitely fair. And since we're on Jack Nicholson, can we just say that holy crap, he was good in this movie.
Yeah.
He earned every moment of this movie.
He's still 100% Jack, but he is like such a very specific version of Jack. The smile that he gives, the Jack smile, he gives it at the right moments, like the denigration, but also like acknowledgement that he's able to do. Like his performance, even though he is 100% being Jack, is incredible. incredibly nuanced.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny because he is being Jack, but he's got the posture of a Marine.
Yeah.
He's got the bearing and the power behind him, and he's just walking into the room with that power.
Yeah.
So I loved him. I thought he was amazing in this.
That nobody else could have done that
Yeah.
role in that particular way. I mean, somebody could have handled like the scenes when they're sitting there having tea, whatever they were doing. Somebody else could have done
Yeah.
that. Nobody else could have had the power command performance while in that chair.
I agree. And I actually think that the way he treated Demi Moore when they were having that lunch was Jack. I think he brought something special and elevated to that role because he could have just been a sexist jerk, but there was something more to it that he brought as well. And I think also I thought Demi Moore was spectacular.
I agree.
I thought she did a great job, and her character was very nuanced. And I loved that they did not make the two of them fall into bed, and thank God, because that would have been a whole other movie and I would have hated it.
Yeah, they had their moments, and then that was fine. But I'm glad
workplace flirtation, that was it.
I'm glad it wasn't developed, that it didn't become a thing. Yeah, because it wasn't about them necessarily.
No.
I thought, so this one is always, it's good to watch well-crafted movies, whether you like the story or not, but you watch this one for the performance, not the story.
I completely agree, and the one thing I will say, and it's about Rob Reiner and how good I think he is this is one of the few movies we've seen that started as a play that did not feel like a play.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're
Even
absolutely
though
right.
it was still in very limited, very closed scenes, I did not feel like this was a play.
You're absolutely right, and I didn't even think of that, but you're 100% right. Started out as a play, does have play structure to it, but it does not have a play feel.
He made it into a movie.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, what's next?
Howard's End.
Alrighty.
So this was directed by James Ivory, so Virgin Ivory, from a screenplay written by Ruth Praura Jabovala. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Based on the 1910 novel by E.M. Forster. This is the third one.
Yes. That's been up for Best Picture.
Yep.
Yep.
So Room with a View and Maurice were the other two.
Passage to India.
But,
that was up for Best Picture.
Sorry, be more specific. This is the third one that Merchant Ivory
Oh,
had
I'm
done.
sorry.
No, that's
I was
fine.
answering a different question.
It's okay. They've adapted three
Yes.
of E.M. Forster's novels, so those were the three.
Mhm.
Stars Emma Thompson, Anthony Hopkins, Helen Bonham Carter, Vanessa Redgrave with James Wilby, Samuel West, Gemma Redgrave, and Prunella Scales. It was nominated for a lot of stuff. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actress, Best Screenplay, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Best Costume Design, and Best Original Score. And it won for Art Direction and Screenplay, as well as Best Actress for Emma.
All right, so one of my facts was going to be this is the third E.M. Forster movie that we have seen in the Best Picture race. So so 4 have now been actually translated to film. 3 by Merchant Ivory, 3 for Best Picture. Venn diagram, Maurice is in the middle. Is the one that's not in the middle. And this was kind of a bit of a family affair. So the actor who played Leonard Bast is the son of the actress who played Aunt Julie.
Okay.
And also, as you heard from the name, Gemma Redgrave, that is Vanessa Redgrave's niece, who played one of Wilcox's daughters.
Okay.
Or his only daughter.
I have a fascinating fact for you.
Oh, I love it.
This is the first film ever released under Sony Pictures Classics.
Oh, I did not know that. It's very cool.
I didn't either.
Okay.
So I'm going to acknowledge right out of the gate that the first half hour of watching this, I thought, in my head, this was a different movie.
Oh, okay. What movie did you think it was?
I thought it was A Room with a View.
Oh, okay.
Which is another Merchant Ivory that comes out next year.
No, we've already seen A Room with a View.
No, not Room with a View.
Maids of the Day?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, alright.
And I kept waiting.
Which also stars Emma Thompson and Anthony Hopkins.
And I thought that was this movie. So for the first half hour, I was like, and I remember really...
Why is she not serving the tea?
I was very confused. And then I was like, oh, okay. So, and then I kind of settled, and I was like able to watch the rest of it.
Got it.
But I was, for the first half, I was very confused because I love Remains of the Day. I love that movie.
Okay, all right.
That is such a beautiful romance story.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll get to that one next year. This
what did
one,
you think about the movie you actually watched?
not a fan.
Okay.
I didn't dislike it, but this one just takes a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's over half an hour before we even get to Howard's End.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of setup, and I don't think all the setup was really even that necessary for the story. Like, that first half hour, you could have done things that would have gotten us there quicker to get to the actual story.
The first scene is at Howard's End. They're at Howard's End when the sister and the younger son have a little...
Right, but then
Yeah.
we're away. And
then we go about a half an hour before we come
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
Oh, okay, all right,
Yeah.
I'm with you now. Yeah.
That first half hour I kept waiting for a lot of tiebacks or callbacks or things that just didn't
Mhm.
happen, and it was fine, I guess. Everybody's performances were phenomenal. I thought they were top notch, and I did like the fact that we start to see. Oh my God, why am I blanking on her name?
On the bottom?
Yes,
Mhm.
we start
Her?
to see her as the her we know later on. She's
Yeah.
not the demure young girl anymore. She's the Helena that we know later on, and
She's got a little cray-cray.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I love her like that.
Mm-hmm.
So she was a joy to watch. Vanessa is just stunning and always amazing. I have yet to see her in
Redgrave?
Yeah,
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't
She-
know you liked her.
she to me, and I know this is a horrible thing, but it is something. Men get more distinguished as they age.
Mhm.
Women, unfortunately, for the majority, do not. There are obvious exceptions.
Mhm.
Vanessa, I think, is one of them. She just gets more stunning.
I
as
think
she
Emma
ages.
Thompson as well. Yeah.
Emma does. There's a bunch of other. That's a whole different topic. But she was. I think she was underutilized a little bit, but her character was underutilized, not necessarily her acting. And then the love story itself, Emma kind of quickly going with him, and then their conflict. I just stopped caring.
I am going to put, here's my hot take, which is I don't know that it was romance. I don't think it was necessarily a romance. I think, and again, with a lot of these movies, I think I like this type of movie better than you like this type of movie, which is a woman's situational movie in the times.
Right.
Which is, she and her sister were doing fine. They were kind of upper middle class. They weren't, they didn't own their own home. They had a lease, it was the place where they grew up, but they were certainly better than some, but they
Yep.
were not as rich as others. And they were both kind of, doing fine, but they would have been much better if they were married.
Yeah.
And so I took it more as this nice man who is the husband of a friend of mine, and who I saw in a very tender moment with his wife. Remember when she looks through the window and she's like, okay, this is a good man. He loved his wife. He's a good person, and he's interested in me. And boy, that's a great situation. I ought to hook myself up there. I didn't see it as a romance. I saw it as he wanted a wife. She would love a husband, and they had a lovely little relationship.
It was practical.
It was practical, yeah. I didn't see love there.
I saw affection.
Absolutely, a total affection, yes.
I did.
cared for one another.
I did like his proposal.
Yeah.
That made me laugh out loud. And I know it wasn't necessarily intended as comedy.
Oh, it wasn't. It was very appropriate for the times
Yes.
and for the type of man he was, but it was very funny.
Because I'm asking you to marry. Oh no, I got that.
Yeah. and he's like, I probably should have written a letter. Well, I'll respond in a letter. Like, okay, the times they lived in were odd.
I did like that exchange a lot.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this more when we get to Remains of the Day, but these kind of period pieces that are not a lot going on are always a struggle for me to kind of identify and latch onto. It's a me thing, I fully acknowledge it, but the way this is crafted, Merchant Ivory, they know how to set a tone.
It's beautifully done movie. It's a beautiful movie to look at.
Yep.
I think this is one of those movies that it is about class distinctions, and it's got higher stakes than others.
Mm-hmm.
So like A Room with a View, I think there were no high stakes at all. It's everybody was in the upper class, and whether it's slightly more upper or slightly more, this has 3 distinct class levels.
Yep.
And you've got your high level, your medium level, and then the low level.
Yep.
And those folks are going to die. You know, they are not doing well. They are not feeding themselves. They are really living hand to mouth. And then you've got the middle, which they're doing fine, but they would love to do a little bit better.
Yep.
What do you think about the whole plot of the wife left the place or wanted to leave Howard's End to Emma Thompson and didn't, and yet at the end of the movie it all ends out the way that she intended? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
That was the point, to start here and then end at the exact same place and see the voyage of how you got there.
Mm-hmm.
I think the concept, she was kind of batty.
Yes.
So that is something that very realistically she could have done, and then very realistically the family would have said, "Oh hell no."
Ignoring that
Yep.
completely.
So I bought all of that. It does seem a little odd, but to me it was just a plot point to start here and then we're going to end up here. And they brought you along the entire journey, and it was a fine journey to go on.
Yep. I just loved Emma Thompson's character because I think that his family's assumed that she was a money grubber or that she was trying to get into with the wife, and I don't think she was.
No,
I
don't
think
know either.
from the beginning she felt bad about her sister, and there was this like uncomfortable kind of awkwardness, and so she wanted to clear that up. She liked Vanessa Redgrave. I thought she just was a good person. I loved the joy that both of the sisters had when Jackie showed up, thinking that they were, you know, being naughty and hiding her husband. Like, they thought it was a hoot. They were like, "Oh, are we hiding a man? That's fantastic. Come on up, let's talk about it." I thought that was great. They were just delightful, lovely characters living a happy, happy life. And again, she saw an opportunity to be better taken care of and thought, yeah, that works. He's a nice man. I'll do that.
I think part of her decision was not just necessarily for herself, but also for her sister and her
Agreed.
and that aspect of the family. I don't think it was purely a selfish thing. I'm going to be taken care of. It is, I'm going to bring all of these people with me, and that's part of the package.
Yep, the brother, the aunt,
Yeah,
everybody
the
will all be
brother.
taken. He was hilarious. Yeah.
Underutilized, but I think was, he was in it an appropriate amount. But I liked him. He just seemed like he would have been one of the cool rich people to hang out with.
I think they were all just very, very cool, and I think that at the end of the day, it was a sad and pointless thing that happened. And you just saw how if they, who knows what would happen if they'd turned Howard's End over. Maybe nothing would have changed. Maybe they still would have been in the same social circles then, same things would have happened, or maybe everybody's life would have been better. Who knows?
I found it interesting that that Howard's End, the thing that this is all about, the people who own it don't like it.
I know.
Don't want it.
Yes, and all of her furniture fits beautifully there.
But it's constantly, like, by that aspect of the family, it's constantly denigrated. It's like, It's an eyesore to them. And to the others, it's like, no, this is a perfect little house. Would love this. This is great.
Yep.
But I just always found that interesting, that the people who own it are constantly putting it down because it's not up to their standards.
Yes.
Which, admittedly, with the other things that they own, is not up to their standards.
Like a castle.
Right.
They got married in a castle.
Yeah.
Yes. So I agree. I thought it was a fun, delightful movie it was beautiful to look at, great performances, and a slip of a storyline.
Yeah.
All right.
Scent of a Woman?
Okay.
Oh, this is gonna be fun.
All right.
Scent of a Woman, directed by Martin Brest, adapted by Bo Goldman from the Italian novel Il Bue el Malene, Darkness and Honey, translated by Giovanni Aprino. This was previously adapted by Dino Risi for his 1974 Italian film Profuma di Donna, so this is a remake of an Italian film that was from an Italian novel. Stars Al Pacino and Chris O'Donnell with James Rebhorn, Philip Seymour Hoffman, credited as Philip S. Hoffman at the time. Gabrielle Anwar, Bradley Whitford are in the supporting roles, nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Screenplay, and Al Pacino did win that year for Best Actor. What's the facts?
The facts are that, the Al Pacino role was offered to Jack Nicholson.
That doesn't surprise me.
It would have been fascinating to see what he had done with it.
Yep.
And then, also not surprising, is every young actor in the world was after that Chris O'Donnell part. And, some of the names you're not surprised about, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, everybody kind of coming up in that generation. Two that interested me that I thought were interesting were Anthony Rapp, who originated the role of Mark in Rent.
Oh, okay.
You know him if you see him, and Chris Rock.
Really?
which would have been fascinating. That would have been really interesting.
I think it might have been a better movie.
I think it would have been a very good movie. So yeah. So there we go. All right.
So I'm going to start out by saying this is the start of the transformation into the Al Pacino we know later in life.
Hooah!
Yeah, there's two Als. There's
Yes.
the young Al, and then there's the middle-aged and older Al.
Yep.
This is the beginning of the latter. I did like the introduction. You get a great sense of the desperation that Chris O'Donnell's character
Sure.
is in and what he needs. And then you get a great introduction to Al's character. And then we go on a ride.
Yep.
I'm guessing, just from the sense I'm getting over here, you do not like this movie.
I do not like this movie
I
at
knew it.
all. I think the premise is pointless and terrible. I think the acting is overwrought. And I did not enjoy it at all, and I've got like lots of reasons why, but I will say I like to start with the good things, which
Sure.
is, as I said, the acting I thought was overwrought, mostly coming from Pacino, but my God, he really looked blind. Like, he did an amazing job of making me think that he could not
Yeah.
see. That stare that he had, the way that he was, relying on his cane and everything around him. He had the ability to act the heck out of that, but it was too much. He was turned up to an 11.
Yeah, he was definitely, he was amped up for this particular
Yeah.
role. I
We got the
grant
best
you that.
actor, so I guess they saw something I did not.
The setup for me works, but it is very tropey. It is relying on a lot of things that you already know and does not really step out of those bounds at all, or even really necessarily challenge those boundaries.
I'm okay with the premise of it and the things that it sets up, but the payoff is not there. I just did not see how, and this is how we wrapped it up and resolved it with a tight little bow, because Al Pacino stood up in a class gym and said some profanities, and everyone's like, oh, okay, well, we see now. And by the way, he's super cute, and so I think I'm gonna hook up with him. Was his speech really gonna turn everybody around and see, here's the good guy, here's the bad guys, and I just didn't see that happening.
I think it's slightly unrealistic. I will give you that.
Mhm.
I think the point of doing it was not even necessarily to save Chris's character. It was to show a transformation on Al's side.
I agree.
That he cares now for somebody and did so genuinely. Did Al think everything was going to change? No, he was just giving a shame lecture.
Yeah.
But maybe not. But I think that was just the point, though, is that he did show up and do something for someone else.
Right. So let's get back to the premise of, Chris O'Donnell was a witness, along with Philip Seymour Hoffman, which baby Philip Seymour Hoffman is always fantastic, so that was great. But the two of them witness some of their classmates who we have been set up to see are terrible people.
Yeah.
Witness them doing something bad.
Yep.
The headmaster then comes over and basically says, you gotta narc on these guys,
Yep.
or else, I'm going to pull your scholarship, throw you out, and you'll never get into college.
Yep.
And everybody around him is like, oh, don't worry, we're gonna figure it out, and then you realize that they're going to, they're gonna circle their wagons, and you are on the outside.
Yes.
So, it's an interesting premise. It really is. It's a whole kind of philosophical, what would you do in that situation? I don't feel like he made the choice to do nothing. I think he didn't know what to do, and he was frozen. I don't think that he actually said, I have such a spine, I'm gonna stand up here and say, it is wrong to turn in, it is against the honor code to turn these guys in. I think he was just like, I don't know what to do, and I'm gonna stutter.
I 100% agree with you. I think he was frozen. He did not know what to do. He was faced with difficult choices. He knew what the right thing to do was, but he
What
did
is the right thing?
the right thing?
Yeah.
To not.
Why?
Huh?
Why is that the right thing to do?
Because in this situation, the headmaster is taking something very personal,
Mm-hmm.
and that is incorrect. This should not have been a personal thing. They didn't
Okay.
blow up a building. They didn't do anything really horrible. They damaged his car that he was so proud of.
Yes.
So in this situation, it's
I don't know.
Sorry,
I don't think it's that black and white.
sorry, headmaster.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would have turned them in either, but I don't know that it is that black and white. I really don't. Is they damaged somebody else's property, isn't that against the honor code? Isn't that something that you are supposed to turn in if you see somebody do something wrong?
necessarily. It depends on the act. There's
Yeah.
a lot of gray area.
There was a lot of gray area. I agree. I think it was brought in as this is the right thing to do.
I agree.
And I don't think it was so clearly the right thing to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. And if they weren't like shown as such terrible, oh, these are terrible guys. So, I don't know. I just did not see it as that black and white.
Okay, and that's totally fine. I
Mm-hmm.
think the incident should have been something with a little bit higher stakes rather than just paint dropped on a car.
Yeah.
I think that would have made the choices a little bit more interesting and a little bit, so you could explore them a little bit, go down,
Yeah.
figure out why and the motivation. I do agree with you that Chris was frozen for most of it. I think he had
Mhm.
made up his mind at the end and was going to do the thing. And then, the Al Pacino showed up and basically saved him, so he
Mhm.
didn't have to make a choice.
Well, that's exactly it. Is I don't know that we saw him grow morally.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think we did either.
Yeah.
I enjoy this performance simply because it is so over the top. I admit it is over the top 100%, but it's like he's just chewing scenery left and right, and to me it is just fun to watch. I don't think this is a great film, but it is fun to watch Al chew scenery.
I was gonna say I just crapped all over this movie, so I feel bad now if this
No.
is something that you
I-
really liked and enjoyed.
This movie is highly problematic,
Yeah.
and my thing's gonna stop, so we gotta wrap this up pretty quickly here.
Okay.
It's
We have
highly.
one whole other movie to do.
I know.
Okay.
We'll see how far we get. It's highly problematic, but that's why I enjoy it, is just watching Al walk through the scenery and chew. That's it.
Okay.
There's so many problems with this film.
Totally agree with you. All right.
Unforgiven. Produced and directed by Clint Eastwood, written by David Webb Peoples. The film stars Clint Eastwood, Gene Hackman, Morgan Freeman, Richard Harris, Jamie Wolfitz, Saul Rubinek, Francis Fisher, and Anna Thompson. Was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Screenplay, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, and Best Sound. And it won a lot. It won for Best Picture. It also won for Director for Eastwood. It won for Hackman. It won also for Best Film Editing. Good effects.
All right. This is the only one of the 5 that's on the AFI list. It is most recently number 68. Having moved up on the original list, it was number 98. So it's moved up 30 points.
That's a big jump.
Yeah. Just a quick moment, because we did lose Gene Hackman this week,
Yeah, we
who
did,
is a
unfortunately,
phenomenal actor. My fun fact, which I think actually most people know, is that Strawberry Alice was played by Frances Fisher, who is the real life girlfriend of Clint at the time.
Yep.
They have since broken up, but they do share a daughter, and you see them out from time to time at various events for her, so they seem to be getting a lot better than he did with his prior girlfriend, Sandra Locke, who sued him.
She's an actress. The
Yes,
daughter,
oh
right?
yeah. Yep, filmmaker. Filmmaker, I think.
Okay.
Mhm.
You gotta give Clint a lot of credit. He is an amazing director. I don't like all of his films, but the man does know how to craft a film well.
Mm-hmm.
I think, in my estimation, this is one of his crowning achievements.
Mm-hmm.
I love this film. From start to finish, I think this is a phenomenally well-crafted film. I also recognize this is a very guy-centric kind of film.
Okay, well, this is going to bug you a lot because I love this movie.
Okay.
I think it's a fantastic movie. I think it is well paced. It's very tense. I love the language, the old-fashioned language to it all. I think that the performances are phenomenal. If you will indulge me for a moment,
Yeah.
I have a new favorite first line of a movie ever.
Okay.
It used to be "I Believe in America" from Godfather. Also, we all know Rosebud in those. She was a comely young woman and not without prospects. Best first line of a movie ever, right? It's the language and like literally like 3 sentences was all we needed to know about Clint Eastwood. He was a bad guy. He met a woman he loved. She got him off alcohol. He became a good guy. He's a dad. He's just trying to do his best.
The thing that I did like about it, initially that intro was like, okay, we got set up, that's fine. But we also had an outro.
Oh, yeah.
So they were bookended, and
Yeah.
that made it even better for me. Like, I
Agreed.
didn't mind the beginning. It does seem a little bit out of place, but because
Mhm.
we got the bookend at the end, it just made the intro just
I
that
loved
much
it.
better.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was super well crafted. I liked all of the characters. I thought Gene Hackman, and I know he won the Best Supporting Actor, I thought he was a little too much of a tool in this, but not out of the norm of that kind of man in that kind of time.
I think what we discovered with his character is he likes celebrity.
Yes, the biographer and everything.
Once the biographer shows up, taking down English Bob, who, Richard Harris.
Love him, yes.
But once he discovered that he could have celebrity and he had an audience to tell his stories to, how much he loved that. Because when Clint actually finally arrives at the town and he goes in the middle of the night and it's raining and Clint's sitting there shivering, he is performing at that moment. He's not being himself, he is performing.
You're right. I take it back. You're right. That's not who he is, it's who he wants to be seen as.
No, it's all because the biographer was there.
Yeah.
I think that's in him, obviously, and I think he, from the past, you do get the sense that he was also not a very good person, but most of this performance is quite that. It's performative, not necessarily how he deals with things.
Yep, I agree. I thought all the minor characters were great. Morgan Freeman is just always good, but he was particularly good in this movie. I loved the character Delilah, the one that actually got scarred, and kind of when she offers to have sex with Clint Eastwood, and she's so vulnerable when she does it, and she's so sad when he turns her away because she thinks it's because of the way she looks, and you see that he sees that and he builds her up of no, it's about my wife.
Right.
And I just loved that moment that they shared. I thought that was so intimate, much more so than if they'd slept together.
Did you buy, because some people have had problems with this, so we have the back history of him being such a horrible person, and we hear all the stories, but we never see it. And then we have the transformation at the end, where he becomes the thing that we heard all of these stories about. Did you buy that? Was there enough paste and put into it so that when that transformation happens, you could go on the voyage? A lot of people say no, you needed something more. It's not just take a couple swigs of whiskey and suddenly you're a bad man again.
No, I absolutely bought it, because to me it was the death of his friend and the killing at the hands of these men that drove him to take the drink. It's almost like in taking the drink, I'm going to become the man. It's not the drink that turned him. It's I am becoming this man. I am taking this drink because I know and I want it. I want to be that bad guy because I can't avenge my friend without being the bad guy that I once was. So I thought it was terrific. I thought it was really well done.
I want to talk about the kid for a second, and the actor was fine. He was not great or phenomenal, but he was fine.
I haven't seen him again, so
I don't reckon. I don't know. But what I liked was what the kid represented in the story. The in his mind, he has all of these heroes and legends, and he wants to be one of those heroes and legends, and then he's confronted with what it takes to be one of those heroes and legends, and he can't do it.
He doesn't have it.
Right. And I liked the fact that that was even explored in a Western, as opposed to just being like, no, I'm just going to go and do it, and I'll just be a massive killer. The fact that they actually explored that and came out with a very definitive answer for this kid at the end, I love that was even in here in the first place.
Nope, I completely agree with you, and I would say the same thing with the going back to the question about Clint Eastwood and his character. Morgan Freeman's character can't end up killing somebody because he has transformed into a good guy as well. He has a wife waiting at home. He can't do it. And in that moment when Clint Eastwood kills that guy, it's, I am doing this to get money to save my children. I'm not turning into a bad guy. I'm not going back to who I was before. It's very practical, pragmatic. I must do this task to get this money to save my kids. It's when he goes after the town that he becomes the bad guy that he was once before. But I love that Morgan Freeman couldn't do that. He couldn't revive that bad guy.
Yeah, and again, we have the three very distinct different things. We have one who can't do it when confronted with it, one who can't do it because of they have completely transformed, and one who does end up transforming, but it's due to loss. And so it's three very distinct things, and I like that.
Yep, totally agree.
So I did want to say one quick thing before we wrap this one up, which is sometimes when we do rewatches of these movies, we can be hypercritical of it because we've seen it before, so we're almost looking for things. This one, I think the more you watch this, the more you get to see how incredibly well crafted the movie is. you see, once you know the plot, the story, and all the things that happen, then you see the structure of how this is handled, the way things are put together, how they linger on scenes and things. The beginning is slow, but it's necessary.
The build-up is necessary.
Yeah.
And even the Richard Harris part, I'm like, is he ever going to come back? Oh, no, he's not. He was just there for the purpose to
Correct.
show who Gene Hackman was.
Yep, and all of that completely works. It is
Yeah,
a very,
it was necessary.
it's so well crafted.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that because sometimes we can be way overcritical or be forgiving because we might like the
Because we love
movie.
it so much,
Yeah.
exactly. I have to say, I think this is the first time I've ever seen it all the way through.
Mm.
I did not remember some of the parts of this, so I think I've seen it, or thought I saw it, or saw bits and pieces. So this is the first start to finish, tip to tail.
Yeah, I love this movie. This is probably the fourth, fifth time I've seen it, and it works for me every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And I have nothing else to say about it.
Well, yes, you do. You have to tell me what should have won the Best Picture this year.
I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. So,
Say it at 1, 2, 3.
okay.
1, 2,
1,
3.
2, 3.
Okay.
Unforgiven. Are you gonna say a son of a one? I'm gonna smack you. Okay.
No, absolutely Unforgiven. I was just going to clarify 1, 2, 3 and then say it, but I said 1, 2, 3 and then you said it. So that's on me, my
We
fault.
would say 1, 2, 3, and then we say it? Yes. Oh, I know. All right. 1, 2, 3.
Unforgiven.
See, we can cut out all the rest of that.
So again, we've done this 3 times in a row now. We agree with the Academy.
So this one, Silence of the Lambs, was the last time. What was the time before that?
I don't remember. I just remember we actually
Okay.
agreed.
All right. Cool.
All right.
Academy is catching up.
See ya.
Bye.